We have learned several different ways to solve a quadratic. Somebody tell me how to solve one of the methods we've learned. How do we solve quadratics? We've learned 4 different methods so far.
GCF.
That's factoring. Factoring. Graphing. Square roots. And completing the square. Next week, we're going to talk about the quadratic formula, which is our 5th and final way to solve a quadratic. But in order to use the quadratic formula successfully, we need to know about imaginary numbers and complex numbers. So, an imaginary number was defined by mathematicians so that we can take the square root of a negative number. Equations such as x squared plus 1 equals 0 have no real solution. So mathematicians define the imaginary numbers to represent their solutions. The imaginary unit I is defined as the square root of negative 1. This is useful when working with square roots of negative numbers. A pure imaginary number is written in the form bi, where b is the real number and I is the imaginary part. So, to simplify a radical with a negative under it, we have to know that the square root of negative 1 is I. Let's look at number 1. We have the square root of negative 9. Isn't that the same thing as 9 times negative 1?
Yes.
What's the square root of 9?
3.
And what's the square root of negative 1? I. So if you have a negative under the radical, basically you're adding an I to your answer. What's the square root of, or let's put it this way, 196 times negative 1 is the same as negative 196. What's the square root of 196?
14.
And the square root of negative 1 is I. Square root of negative 5, we cannot take the square root of 5, but we can take the square root of negative 1. So it's going to be plus or minus I times square root of 5. 5 stays under the radical. Make sure you understand what comes out of the radical and what stays underneath. After you complete that operation of taking the square root, the answer comes out. If you can't take the square root of it, it stays underneath. I had some people on the quiz tell me that the square root of 121 was the square root of 11. That is not correct. Once you take the square root of it, the number comes out. The answer is not under the radical anymore. The radical is a operation symbol, just like 2 plus 6 is 8. I don't say 2 plus 6 is plus 8. So make sure after you perform the operation that the answer is not under the radical anymore. But I cannot take the square root of 5, so that stays underneath. Number 4, square root of 80 times negative 1. Also, your calculator is not going to do negative, it won't take the square root of negative numbers. But you can use your calculator to simplify the other part. What's the square root of 80? And the square root of negative 1? Put the I with your whole number. You don't want to put it after because then it looks like it's under the radical. So put it before. Square root of negative 32. That's going to be 32 times negative 1. What's the square root of 32? Four square root of 2. So it's plus or minus 4i times square root of 2. Square root of 192 is the same as 192 times negative 1. What's the square root of 192? 8 square root of 3. So how do I write my answer? All right, when solving equations, we can also use imaginary numbers, especially when our answer is a negative, has a negative under the radical. When I'm solving an equation, I have to isolate the variable. I'm trying to get x by itself. What should I do first? Yes, subtract 81 from both sides. Then what?
Take the square root.
Yes, the opposite of squaring a number is taking the square root. What's the square root of negative 81? Plus or minus 9i. Number 8. What do I do first? Subtract 9. And then divide by 2. That gives me x squared is negative 4. Take the square root of both sides. So x equals plus or minus what? 2i. If there's a negative under the radical, you should have an I in your answer. Number 9, subtract 15. Divide by 4. Take the square root. Can I take the square root of 6 or simplify it? Can I simplify that? So what do I do? How do I write my answer? I times the square root of 6. 6 stays under the radical because I can't take the square root of it. I can take the square root of negative 1. That's I. So the I comes out, the 6 stays underneath. Number 10, subtract 13.
Number 6.
Say it again.
That's the thing.
What is the square root of negative 12? Is 4 times 3 times, or negative 12 is 4 times 3 times negative 1. Square root of 4 is 2. Square root of negative 1 is I. 3 stays under the radical because I can't take the square root of 3. It's not a perfect square.
Somebody's phone is going on.
Number 11, add 5 and divide by 3. What's the square root of negative 147? You should have your calculator at your desk. It doesn't take but a second to punch it in. Plus or minus 7i times square root of 3. Number 12, add 1. First step is to add 1. You add or subtract first. Now, how do I get rid of the negative 2/3? Multiply by the reciprocal. Take the square root. What do you get?
That's 3 square root of 3.
Mm-hmm. So how do I write my answer?
I.
Square root of 3. Now, the powers of I. We're going to watch a little video to help explain this. I posted this video on Canvas also.